if you're thinking about opening a car dealership, these are the five mistakes that I think you should avoid, or these are the five advice that I think you should take very, very seriously if you want to succeed in the car business. What's going on, guys? My name is Mansoor. They call me Manny in the car business. I had a dealership for 2 years, and prior to that, I was what you call a bird dog. A bird dog is somebody who goes out and look for customers and bring them to the dealers, and they get paid for referrals. So I did that for a long time, um, mainly in the buy here pay here sector, and I made a ton of money. But something told me to open a car dealership. It was like a download from the sky. It's like you have to open a car dealership. And believe me, for the longest time, I avoided opening a car dealership. I thought it was a headache. I thought the customers were going to be a pain in the ass. And I was just making easy money online. I was traveling abroad and just making money over the internet, generating leads and sending them to dealers, and they were selling cars and they would just pay me referral checks. So, but then COVID came, and when COVID came, the car business went through a lot of reshuffling, and I had an opportunity to open a dealership of my own, and so I had a run for 2 years, and I ended up shutting it down because I was just losing a lot of money, and I made so many mistakes, and I just wanted to share those mistakes. So, number one is learn how to buy, learn how to buy, learn how to buy, learn how to buy a car, learn how to buy a car. Um, I was an internet person. I was an internet guy. I knew computers. I knew how to generate leads. I was a marketing guy, right? And I knew cars to some extent. Like I knew about cars to some extent. Like I even know how to change my own oil, right? But by no means I am a car expert. Like there are people out there who are car experts. They know at what point BMW started making such and such engine for such and such model. They're fanatics, and you don't need to be that person to open a car dealership, to own a car dealership, or to work in that car dealership, right? Um, but you need to learn how to buy cars, which has nothing to do with knowing cars, a little bit. So I want to focus mainly on auctions because that's where the cars are at most of the time. I mean, you can buy from the street, but it's very time consuming, very rewarding, but very time consuming. And but if you want to, if you need to buy 20 cars tomorrow, you need to go to the auction, right? There are auctions like Manheim, there are auctions like CarMax. These are dealer only auctions that you can go, you register once you have your dealer license, you get into those dealerships and you can just buy cars. Now, the reason I said you need to learn how to buy a car is because if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna lose a lot of fucking money. Sorry, excuse my language. Um, and that's my number one mistake. I didn't know how to buy a car. I had no experience buying a car. So if you're gonna open a car dealership, I suggest that you go work for a car dealer and spend all of your time with the buyer, not the salesman, not the finance department. You need to spend time with the buyer. The buyer will tell you what to look out for. What to look out for as far as the car, what you look at for as far as like the value, the MMR. I'm not going to go into details of what the MMR is and all these numbers. This is just like a broad video. Maybe in the future I can make other videos to specialize in these areas, but for now I'm just giving you like a broad description of what to look out for. But when you go to the auction, there's a car, right? And there's a car. Let's just say a Nissan Altima, a 2012 Nissan Altima. Um, there's a there is an industry there's an industry standard as far as what the value of that car is based on the year, make, model of the car, based on the options of the car, and based on how it's been selling um, at the auctions, which we call the Manheim Market Report, or Manheim. It's called the MMR. So the MMR is what the average auction price is for that car, right? And once you look up the MMR, you also need to look up the description of the car to see if the car does it need a transmission, Does it need tires? Does it need a paint job? Does it need engine? Or whatever it needs, you can subtract that. Whatever below, you can subtract it from the MMR, so you know exactly how much you're gonna get the car for, and then you can add in the dealer fees, you can add in the transportation fees, and you can add in whatever. And so this is where, okay, there you make your money when you buy the car. You make your profit when you buy the car. So when I started, my first mistake was I was buying naively. Um, the auction game is a dirty game. You have dealers that will bring cars to the lot, and that car had a transmission slipping. It had a transmission on the way out, and they just put it out on the lot. They sell it as green light, as guaranteed, and that guarantee is only good for 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on if you buy protection or whatever. So I bought cars that needed transmissions. I bought cars that that needed head gaskets. The head gasket was blown because sometimes the head gasket, sometimes it could be bad. It could be on its way out, and there's no check engine. I had cars that I bought engines, I bought transmissions, I fixed leaks that were not readily visible. And so my advice to you is learn how to buy cars. Learn what these codes are. You're not gonna get it right away, but it comes with experience, right? There are people, they walk into the lot, they look at a car, they already know how much they're gonna pay for it. But this takes years. I will go to the dealership, and I will go to the auction, and I will look at dealers. They'll just plug in the car. They just plug in the OBD computer. They see the code. They automatically know what the code is. They know how much it's going to cost them to fix it, and then they just look around and they just bid accordingly based on the data they've gathered. There are online auctions, which is where the industry is shifting. People are not going to physical auctions and go underneath the car, and people now there are online auctions where you can the online auction company gives you like a description of the vehicles, and they guarantee you that description, so you can just bid accordingly. But yeah, you need to learn how to buy cars. Learn how to buy, learn how to buy, learn how to buy. If there's anything you need to watch on this video, if it's just one advice you need to take, it's this one. Learn how to buy cars. Do not open a dealership not knowing how to acquire vehicles. Have a little bit of experience. Spend 6 months at a car dealership to learn how to buy. I worked at a car dealership before for about 4 or 5 months, but I didn't spend time with the buyer. The owner was the buyer. I did not spend enough time with him. I was a salesperson, and I was a floater. I was running around. But if I could turn back the clock, I would be spending time with the buyer. Number two, start small. Right? Number two, start small. One thing about me is I'm very impatient, and so I had a lot of capital. But I had a lot of capital. I had about 80, 90 grand. And then I started buying cars. I started buying 1, 2 cars. But being a car dealer, when you just have 1, 2 cars, the sales might be slow. So my thing was, I need 10, 15 cars. And so, but you need to start buying a little bit so you can learn. It's cheaper to make a mistake with 2 cars than to make a mistakes on 10 cars, right? If you make a mistake on 1 car or 2 cars, that mistake is less expensive than if you mess up on 10 cars, right? If you have to buy 10 transmission instead of 2 transmission. So I got too big, too fast. Take your time, learn your craft, right? You're gonna learn a lot by buying just 1 car and just flip it. Matter of fact, before you even get your dealer license and all that, learn to buy cars on the street and flip it, right? Learn to buy a car, flip it. Buy another car, flip it again. You're going to learn a lot. Like for me, I just had some capital, and so I just went all out. And I just bought 7, 8 cars all at once, which was 7, 8 problems because I was naive and I thought these cars were going to be perfect, and they were not. So number two, go small. Go small, learn your craft. And the other mistakes I made, this is part two of advice number two, is that there are flooring companies, right? Flooring companies are banks. These banks, they specialize in dealer financing. So essentially what they do is that they help you buy cars at the auction and even from private parties. What they do is they finance you, right? So you call the bank, it's like, hey, I saw a Nissan Altima at the auction. I won the auction. I won the bidding. It's costing me $13,000. They always say, okay. They'll just go ahead and pay for it. And the auction company is going to send them the title. And then you go get the car. And then you park the car, you get it ready or whatever, and then you sell it. And once you sell the car, you will pay the company the principal they loaned you along with some interest on it, right? Because there's no free money, right? Everything is cost interest. So in theory, a flooring line is essentially the best thing you can do. If you want to have a car dealership, you need a flooring company. You need to borrow the money, you need to go buy cars, fix it, and then pay the company once you sell the car, and they send you the title, and you just have a relationship with your bank. But my advice to you is don't get a flooring line early on. I want to say use your own money to buy small 1-2 cars and learn how to fix them and sell them. Because once you get a flooring line, like I did very early on, what you do is you end up buying a lot because you have capital. If you have $100,000 flooring line, which is what I had, $100,000, you can buy a lot of cars with $100,000. But those cars, something about the used car dealership, those cars are not going to come perfect. They're going to need some work. They're going to need a reconditioning process. Meanwhile, every day that car is costing you money because every day you're being charged interest on that principal that the bank gave you to buy the car. And if you don't know what you're doing, like I didn't know what I was doing, I bought crazy cars. So not only I bought cars that needed work, but so let's just say I buy a car. Turns out that car, the transmission is bust. So now I have to go buy a transmission. Now I have to get it ready. The mechanic is making me wait and this and that. I have to do some body work. Meanwhile, the bank is charging me interest every day. And let's just say it takes me 3 weeks to get the car ready. And now that I have the car ready, the car also has to sit on the lot for a few weeks before it sells. And the flooring company only gives you a certain time. After a certain time, they'll tell you, hey, we need our money back. You can come get the car, but we need our money back. Or they'll ask you to pay for what they call a curtailment. And I can go into details with this, but I just wanted to, like I said, I can make other videos so I can dig deeper. But my advice to you is before you go buy a lot of cars, before you get a flooring company, learn to buy 1, 2, 3 cars. Learn your craft. Learn what to look out for. Fix them, sell them, and buy some more. And if you get a flooring line, don't go crazy. Just because you have $100,000 doesn't mean you're gonna get $100,000 worth of inventory. You can use 20 grand and see how you perform with that 20 grand. And once you pay that 20 grand off, you can go buy more cars. Don't go crazy. It's like when you have a credit card, don't go crazy on the credit card. A flooring line is just a credit card for car dealers. And my advice to you is to just go take it easy. Take it easy. You're not in race with nobody. Like one thing about me, I was very impatient, so I went crazy. You're not in race against anybody. Just take it easy, learn your craft, and have a vision, and you'll be okay. Number 3, don't fix everything on the car. So one thing about the used car dealership is that when you go to the auction, the cars that you see there, these are cars the franchise dealerships did not want. Okay? What is a franchise? A franchise dealer is the brand name dealers, like the Honda dealer, the Nissan dealer, Mercedes dealers. These are franchise dealerships. Okay? So what they do is once what they sell cars. So when their customer come in and they buy a car, they end up trading in their old cars. So let's say a customer John goes to Mercedes and he has a car he's been driving for 10 years, but now he wants a Mercedes. So he will go to the Mercedes dealer and he will bring in his old cars, and the Mercedes makes him an offer on that car and gives him credit and sell him a new car. So now they're going to look at that trade-in, that old car that was traded in. They're going to look at it, they're going to do an inspection, and they're going to see if they want to keep it. If they want to keep it, they're going to recondition on the lot and then put it on their used car dealer section of the dealership, right? Because the franchise dealer, they have a used car section, they have a new car section, and then they have a service center. Those are the three main components of a franchise dealership. So the new cars, which is the manufacturer is sending them the new inventory. Then they have your used cars, which is where the leases, car they were leasing for 2-3 years are coming to, and trade-ins. And then the service center. So for trade-ins, if they don't want to keep the car, if it's too much work, if it's too much miles, it just doesn't fit their inventory, it doesn't fit their standards, or if the car is too old for whatever reason, or if it needs too much work, that's when they go ahead and send it to auction. And that's when the independent car dealer, like I, and like any other used car dealer you run into, that's when they go and they're gonna go and buy that car at the auction. They're gonna go fight for it. So as you can imagine, a lot of these cars need work. Right, some of these cars are scratched. Some of these cars have leaks. Some of these cars, the radio is missing. Some of these cars got hit in his body work. There's so many issues with this car, and this was my least favorite part of the job. Is the reconditioning. It's so exhausting. You have to deal with mechanics. You have to deal with body shops. And my advice to you is, this is just a side advice, don't get one mechanic, get 5 mechanics. Because mechanics don't like dealers, because dealers don't pay the same amount of money as regular customers. And so they always tell you to wait when they have a lot of work. So you need to have because you need to get the car ready, right? Especially if you have a flooring company and they're charging you interest every day, you need to get the car ready as soon as you get it out of the auction. So my advice to you on this third advice is to not fix everything on the car. One thing about me was I was a perfectionist. I am a perfectionist. Like, that's just my nature. I like things perfect, right? I like things perfect. When I do something, I want to do it perfect. If it's not perfect, I don't want to release it to the world. And this has cost me a lot of money in the used car dealership business, because as a used car dealer, a car that's 10, 15 years old is not going to be perfect. But I wanted them to be perfect. I wanted them to be spectacular, right? And my advice to you is, don't do that. Just do what's right, right? You do not need to fix every scratch on the car, right? If the tires are used, if the tires are worn, but still safe to drive, right? If the tires are worn, they're still safe to drive, don't change the tires. If the brakes, if the brakes are used, but they're still safe, the car's still safe to drive, don't change the brakes. It's just, it could be anything. But what I'm saying is, just make the car presentable. Just make the car presentable, and just let the customer is buying a used car. They're buying a used car. They know they're not buying a new. If they wanted a new car, they'll go to the franchise dealer and buy a new car. So my advice to you is, don't fix everything. Just fix the essentials and make the car presentable. And that's it. And you're gonna save yourself a lot of money. Number 4 is, don't cheat. Don't cheat. Don't cheat. There are no shortcuts in life, right? There are no shortcuts. As much as I told you don't fix everything, also don't cheat. And I'll tell you why. When you cheat, what do I mean by cheating? So cheating is, this car has a transmission that's slipping. This car, the transmission is slipping. I mean, in 2 weeks, the car is going to be done. yet you decide to sell it anyways and not disclose it to the customer. That's cheating. Um, this car has a leak. It has a pretty bad leak, and you're not telling the customer. Or it could be anything. And what that does is you don't want to do that for two reasons. Number one, you're just creating more headache because my my worst nightmare was hearing back from a customer. I don't want to hear from a customer. Like one thing about me, like the reason why I delayed opening a car dealership for so long was dealing with a customer after selling them a car. I don't want to hear from you. I want a review. I want a nice review. That's the only time I want to hear from you. Or you call me to tell me you have a referral. Yes, I want those. Other than that, don't call me. But the only way to not get a call from a dealer, from a customer, is to do the right thing. If fix the AC. If the AC doesn't work, fix it. If I don't know, there are some things that the customer is not going to notice right away, but is wrong with the car, and you decide to not fix it. That's cheating, and don't do that. Also, karma is real. All the shitty dealers you see there are people who are really shitty dealers. When you type in their dealership names, and you type BBB, if you want to check a reputation of a business, type the name of the business and then type BBB.org, and you'll see all their Better Business Bureau complaints. Don't just rely on Google reviews, right? And they just and there's karma and there's just bad reputation. It's just not good overall for business. No matter how much you spend on that car, you're gonna lose money on some cars. Sometimes you're gonna lose money because you bought a car, you didn't think the transmission was bad. Turns out the transmission is bad, and now you want to pass it off to the customer. That's not cool. And some dealers, they do that because their back is against the wall, but it's not worth it. So don't cheat. Rule number 5, advice number 5, marketing. Okay, so anybody can get a dealer license, buy a car, and just put it on Car Gurus. But if you want to succeed, especially as an independent car dealer, especially as a small guy, starting out and competing against dealers with 100 units in their lot, 50 units on their lot, and you only have 10 units on your lot, you need to do a lot of marketing, which I overlooked just because I was so overwhelmed with so many other things running the dealership. I was just so overwhelmed. I did not spend enough time doing marketing, which is actually my expertise. But I was just so stressed out, and I had some other stuff going on in my life, but you need to do some marketing. So first, you need to be on the listing sites. Yes, you need to be on Car Gurus, you need to be on Cars.com, you need to be on Auto Trader, you need to be on Carfax. Don't go crazy. Just get a 2 or 3 accounts. Car Gurus is very good for younger crowds. Like Car Guru customers, they're usually younger, on the younger sides. Auto Trader is the older audience. People are, Auto Trader is the very first car listings. They started with, magazines. So Auto Trader tends to have like an older audience. I think Cars.com and it is like a mix of older, because Cars.com has been here for a while. It's up there with Auto Trader, I think. But anyway, it's been there for a while, and so it's a mix of young and new. And then you have Carfax, who now has a listing site. And there are other people, other new guys. So you want to be there. You want to be on Facebook Marketplace. It's a lot of trash you have to dig into, but there are some serious buyers. You just have to dig into a lot of dirt to find them. To me, there's also Craigslist. Craigslist is great for car deal. I made a ton of money on Craigslist in my Bird Dog days. Craigslist is amazing. I found that Craigslist is not really hot on the West Coast. It's not really hot in LA. But on the East Coast, like in Philadelphia, in New York, and Boston, like Craigslist is king, right? I made a ton of money on Craigslist, like on the East Coast and maybe down south. But in California, I found Craigslist is not that hot. There's also OfferUp. You can be on these listing websites, but my thing to you is you need to have a social media presence. That's what's gonna set you apart from all these listing sites. Because if you have a Honda Accord and you put it on Car Gurus or Auto Trader, there are 200 other Honda Accords in your area for sale. So how are you gonna stand out? So you need to diversify your marketing and have a social media presence, right? You have Instagram, you have Facebook, you have TikTok, right? So you know, and these, you know, you can have a social media marketing strategy that's not even hard. Sometimes people's like, well, I don't know social. All you all you have to do is just upload content every other day or every 3 days or once a week, just to engage with customers. And it can be something as little as when you're getting a car delivered, you can just record that car being delivered to you. A car fresh from the auction, you can just record it. It's like, oh, 2015 Mercedes E350, 6 cylinders, only 47,000 miles. Will be ready in 1 week. And just upload it on your Instagram feed. And put a couple of hashtags. And people are going to start following you. And people just, these are not people that's going to buy right away as soon as they see that Mercedes. But what you do when you are generating a following. And some of these people are going to bookmark your postings. And one day they're going to need a car. They will think of you. Or their wife may need a car. Or your girlfriend may need a car. And they'll be thinking of you. And you can do this for Facebook. And you can do this for TikTok. You don't have to always, record a car being offloaded to your lot. You can make a video on what to look out for when you're buying a car. Go underneath, check for leaks. Does the car have floor mats? You just make videos. Just make videos. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be about cars. Sometimes it can be about something in your city, in your area, just so you can have an engagement with that community. And these are the things I didn't do, just because I was overwhelmed again, and I had other stuff going on in my personal life, and I was just not focused. But even if I wanted to, I was really constrained. I was really constrained with so many other things going on in the business between buying and recon. I was just anyway. So have a social media presence. If you have a son, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, let them handle the account. It's not even hard. When you go to the auctions, like I tried it once. I would go to the auction. It's like, look at all these cars, and I would just record it and just upload it. Or you can have a customer, once they buy, you can take a picture of the customer and put it there. Just be creative and set yourself apart. You need to have a social media presence. You can have a blog on your website. You can have a blog to just write. Just now you have ChatGPT, right? You have ChatGPT. Now you can just have ChatGPT write you a whole article based on your input, and then you can just edit it to personalize it, and boom, you have content on your website, and it's going to help you on your SEO with your website traffic, right? So when they type a used car dealership in Los Angeles, used car dealership in Flint, Michigan, your dealership is going to pop up. So marketing. Listing websites are good, but you don't want to rely on listing websites. And that's 5. But I have a bonus for you. One more. This is the bonus. Bonus advice. Have a niche. How do you say niche? A niche? Have a specialty. Specialize in something, right? I have my friend David. He buys, every time he sees a smart car, he just goes and buy them. Because he knows the car. He knows what's wrong with them. He knows how to fix them. He knows how to take them apart. So every time he sees a smart car, he just goes and buy it. And he never loses money because he knows the car. Have a niche. Some dealers, they only sell, vans for electricians. Some dealers, they only sell cars under 80,000 miles. Some dealers, they only sell cars under 100,000 miles. Some dealers, they only sell cars under $10,000 only. Their cars are usually $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Some dealers, they like highline cars. They only sell, luxury sports cars. Whatever you do, just have a niche and have a reason for having that niche. And my friend, if you follow these 5 advices, you're not going to be a loser like me. Good luck.